welcome back. You hear the music. I want my LTC.net. Lynn Rowe, certified financial planner. I haven't had a chance to hang with you since before the holidays.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Did you have a good New Year?
Did. And
fantastic.
Yeah.
I did. I caught this little cold, but I see you're sniffling too, so it must be going
around. Me, yeah.
Before we get to your prepared topics, we can come back to this later, but I was reading the Wall Street Journal just before Christmas, actually, and I pulled this article to talk to you about. Is long-term care insurance for you? It was written by Ann Tergeson, and what's interesting is there was a study out of Georgetown and the Pennsylvania State University. And the bottom line is when you read this article, you would think that only 19% of men and 31% of women, according to this new study, should actually buy long-term care insurance. But when you actually read between the lines, and I was just speaking with young Bobby about this, when you actually read between the lines, the numbers are significantly different. So can we come back to that? Because I want to talk to you about that, because I know you're going to go ballistic on that one, because you want everybody to buy this stuff, and you know it's not for everyone, but for most of the people that are watching this program and listening to us, they fall into the category of individuals that really should be buying it. But you've got some sound bites that you've brought to us. Talk about that.
Well, we've been listening to an interview the last couple times we were together of a lady who is a registered nurse whose husband was, toward the end of his life, afflicted with ALS. Which is
ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Lou Gehrig's disease. She and I had a chance to sit down and talk, and she was one of the fortunate ones. They have long-term care insurance in place. So what she's doing is she's relating to me in this interview all of the things about what she went through and how the long-term care insurance impacted them.
Okay, well, let's listen to it. Do we have the cut ready to go? Run it.
I would certainly recommend that people have this long-term care insurance option because the claim has to be opened at such a tough time. It was getting to the point where I really didn't want to leave him alone in the house, and I needed to be able to get out to do errands and so on. I think it would have been much harder on both of us, both physically and mentally, if we hadn't had that break of person to come in and help with the care. But it appealed to me that I could get people who had been trained.
Wow.
That's a key, that last sentence, and that's what is new that we've aired today, and that is that the long-term care insurance enables you to hire trained people, and not just trained people. They actually help you, if you want, secure a list of people in your area that can come into your home, and they've been vetted. They've already worked with them. The insurance company actually outsources all of this to a care manager. And the care manager is an independent medical person in your community who has worked with long-term care professionals.
I don't really want my wife taking care of me or my kids taking care of me. I mean, I want them for comfort, you know, how I'm feeling, you know, all that stuff. I really don't want to bog them down. I think about that. And then, frankly, I don't want to be the caregiver for my wife either. I've been her caregiver the last couple of days. She pinched a nerve in her back, and she could barely walk. And I'm telling you, it was exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It was absolutely exhausting. Number one, I hated seeing her in pain. I mean, she was in tears. It was so painful, and she still is, and she's taking the Tylenol and all that stuff. But it's a pinched nerve in the back, and I wanted to call somebody. I wanted to call you up and see if you'd take care of her for a while.
Well, you're right. It's exhausting emotionally and physically. I mean, this lady is a registered nurse. She spent her life giving that kind of care to people. But here she was in a situation where she needed somebody basically to help her do a 24/7 job, which no nurse ever signs up for, and with a very debilitating illness. Now, you know, I know people, for example, say, well, you know, I'm very healthy, there's nothing wrong with me, I should be fine, I haven't had any members of my family need care. Yeah, well, that was true of this gentleman as well, except he was diagnosed with ALS, and that's not something you can look up and see what your family history looks like to see if the probability is high of you developing it.
Yeah, and we hate probabilities because, you know, probability is, you know, there are 1 in 6 people are going to get disabled. But if you're that one person...
Exactly. It's 100%.
It's 100%. Exactly right. So here's what I want you to do, folks. This is something that is so serious that everybody needs to at least have some kind of a game plan in writing. Whether you purchase an insurance policy or not, at least have a plan in mind and talk to your family members about this. Do you sit like around the kitchen table and talk to the family members and scold them and all that stuff?
What I try to do is get people to put it in writing, and we talk about that. But I will, in fact, coordinate family members and have done that, family meetings, I should say, where we have talked about, for example, whatever coverage they have, answer questions about, you know, what kind of things to expect in the event that they are the caregiver. Because remember, when you buy long-term care insurance, you're not going to administer your policy.
Who administers it?
Your spouse or your kids.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And if they don't know what you have in mind.
Yeah, good point. Wow.
You know.
Hadn't thought about that. Now, so basically you buy a policy, but a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid of spending the money and all that stuff. And you've got different ways to skin that, right? There are a lot of affordable ways to do it. You've been teaching me, and I appreciate that, because I've been looking into like critical care riders and all the stuff that you've been teaching me, which is really exciting, because there's really something in the hopper for everybody, isn't there?
There is, and you bring up a good point. We haven't talked about critical care for a while, but we should do that next week, because that's a big deal, especially with our
Can you
health
just define what critical care means and chronic illnesses? What does all that really mean?
Critical care coverage or critical illness coverage basically says you find yourself in one of those dire situations, and like, for example, cancer or a heart condition or something along those lines, or you've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and you're losing some control here. It's based on diagnosis. So the critical care or the chronic care illness type coverage basically pays on that diagnosis. Period. That's a big deal, because, for example, if you were diagnosed with cancer and you know you're going to be getting treatment at say a hospital up in LA or in Arizona someplace, because you've heard that those are where the experts are, your insurance may not pay for that. Number one, they're certainly not going to pay for your lodging or your transportation. I mean, there's going to be expenses.
Oh, my Obamacare pay all that stuff.
Oh, of course. And so what the critical care coverage does is it gives you the cash to pay those bills.
Yeah, it's like a daily benefit or something like that, yeah?
It can be monthly, it could be lump sum, depending on, how it's set up.
Okay, Lynn Rowe, Certified Financial Planner. I want my LTC.net. You can give her a call, by the way, at 877-270-3127. I highly recommend that you do that. First of all, she's tiny and she won't, she can't attack you over the phone, number one.
Only him.
And she is extremely bright in this area, and it's such, we joke and we tease because we've known each other since she was a young woman. Oh, I shouldn't have said that, huh?
Wait a minute.
And I was a middle-aged man. In either event, we're going to bring her back, because I've got some questions for her on this article, and I want to talk about it. But if you want to, get a plan in place, a plan in writing, before you spend a nickel on any of this stuff, go to the expert, the one that knows more about it than anybody I know. I want my LTC.net, 877-270-3127 for Lynn Rowe, Certified Financial Planner. Will you please stay?
Yes, sir.
And I didn't mean what I said about the old thing, but we'll be back. I devote a lot of time to long-term health care, because those of us that are getting up there in years are going to be faced with something in our lives, either ourselves, our spouse, a parent, maybe even a child will need some form of care. And the question is, how do you deal with it? And there's a couple of different aspects to this, clearly. There's the financial aspect, which you talk about all the time. And as Lynn just pointed out, Lynn Rowe, my special guest, CFP, there's the emotional aspect. And what I learned from Lynn is many times the caregiver's life expectancy is shorter than the actual person that has the ailment. And that's frightening, but I guess it has to do with the stress associated with taking care of somebody, especially a loved one.
Absolutely. And you brought it up earlier. You don't want to be there to go put somebody through the pain that they may have to go through for therapy or getting in and out of a bed to take a shower. I mean, those are the times when it's hard for a family member to continue to do that care. Whereas somebody who is professional, who can, they know how to lift somebody, they know how to, put their own position in such a way that they don't mess up their backs. It's a much safer environment to have that professional caregiver, but it's also less emotionally straining.
I'm writing on this subject right now, and it's funny because I was, doing some editing of my own stuff late last night when you texted me, by the way. You woke me up. And after you texted me, I was up until 2 working on this book that I'm writing. In either event, I said, wouldn't it be nice if, at age 95, you closed your eyes one night and you didn't wake up, you were dead, and you went off to heaven or wherever you go, and everything is beautiful in its own way. And we all like to think that's the way it's going to be, but it's not. No. And there's going to be probably a couple of years there where it's pretty ugly for one person or the other, about 70%. Now, I want to bring this article up because in reading this, I kept saying, no, Ann, you got this wrong. This is Ann Tergeson of the Wall Street Journal. She says, according to researchers at Georgetown University and Pennsylvania State University, about 70% of individuals 65 and older will need some kind of long-term care, whether at home or in an assisted living facility nursing. And so we know that to be true. But then she says, but how many of them should purchase long-term care insurance policy? That number, it turns out, is far lower. 19% of men and 31% of women, according to a new study by researchers at Boston College Center for Retirement Research. Now, I'll be very honest with you. I hate these guys. I don't hate anybody, but the Boston College Center for Retirement Research is, in my opinion, a total left-wing organization that
clearly
gets it wrong a lot. But there's some pretty smart people there, and they're playing with the statistics, and the statistics are right. But if you read through the rest of the article, in other words, if you stop there, you might say, shoot, I'm not going to buy this stuff because the odds are I'm not going to need it. But she's saying, well, the reason that the lower number of individuals should buy long-term care is because the government's going to take care of you.
Exactly.
And in order for the government to take care of you, what do you have to have in your bank account?
Cash.
Yeah, and when you spend that cash, you must spend it down to basically zero. You have to be what they call indigent, financially bankrupt for the government to take. So in other words, it's the super, super poor people that don't have any assets that don't need to buy long-term care. Exactly. But if you have assets, and she goes on to admit it, you just have to dig a little bit deeper in the article. She says individuals that have about $200,000 or more in assets really need to purchase long-term care insurance because you can blink your eye and spend $200,000 on this stuff.
Very quickly. Someone told me the other day that their family member is spending about $5,000 to $6,000 a month for long-term care. All it takes is 1 year to, take a big bite out of that. But that's actually a low number. If you look at some of the numbers across the country, that's actually a low number. And what we have to take into account is what the cost of care has increased by every year. Ironically, assisted living, which is one of the levels of care that people favor over and above, say, a skilled nursing situation if they can have it. Assisted living has been averaging between 5 and 6% increase per year in pretty much every state.
Yeah, which means you really need to have one of these policies with a COLA, cost of living rider on it. I want to read this because it's interesting. After they go through this whole diatribe on who shouldn't buy long-term care, here's what it says. So who should consider buying coverage? According to Anthony Webb, a senior research economist at the Center for Retirement Research and co-author of the paper, those with significant assets, a couple $100,000 or more, should look into a policy. The target market, he adds, is people who have a sizable amount of household financial assets and would be unlikely to qualify for Medicaid. Case closed. In other words, you folks, the people that are listening to this program and watching this show right now, you own a home, they can lien the home. That's right. They can't kick you out of it, but they can lien it, and after you're gone, they can go take the home from your kids on the inheritance. You have a bank account, they make you spend that money down to like $2,000 bucks, and then, of course, you can go on Medicaid. And I mean, I don't know about you, I don't want my loved one on a Medicaid, facility, in a Medicaid facility. It's just not what I want. I want somebody that I know, that's got a nice smile on their face every day, that isn't working for the government, basically, and getting paid by the government. I want to pay them real money. It's like when I go to the doctor, I love the fact with the HSAs that you're writing them the check. It's your money.
Yeah.
And you can look them in the eye and say, this is my money I'm spending. And by the way, if you can do this procedure for less than what the general cost is, let's negotiate. I love that.
Yes.
Because I want my money going to work. And with long-term care insurance, they give me the money so that I can give it to the provider.
They actually reimburse you. So it's exactly what you're saying. You pay that caregiver, and they reimburse you. Now, here's the thing. You can set it up so that they can pay the facility directly. But they also, Ray, let's say you're at home. They will come in and do reviews. And they're looking for the quality of your care. They're looking to see if you're improving, if you're stable, or if you're deteriorating. And they look at how many hours a day you've got a caregiver to evaluate whether or not you need somebody in there more time, let's say to give family members a break. They look at, again, the quality of care in terms of whether or not you have the right equipment. And they will actually pay for the equipment in your home.
You know, we've talked about this before.
So
Fidelity, of course, has done this study. They do it every year. And it varies between $200,000 and $250,000.
Yeah.
That's the amount of money that you will exhaust over your lifetime for health care post-retirement, post-age 65.
Yes.
That doesn't include the cost of long-term health care.
Right.
The long-term care costs are on top of that, and they can easily be another $225,000 or significantly more.
For one individual.
For one individual,
yeah.
Correct. So it really is something that's so very, very important. And there are so many different ways to do this. There are life insurance policies that you can buy that have critical care and long-term care riders and so forth. There are basically emergency fund accounts. We talk with Gene Festool about this all the time, where you can simply move money from your left pocket to your right pocket and have long-term care provided for. And you're going to earn basically on your money what it's earning right now.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, what is a bank account earning today? Like
a lot less than the insurance policies. Many of those are earning between 3 and 5%, depending on the policy. But here's the key: the interest that you're earning is paying for the insurance. Now, remember, that interest is a before-tax dollar, right? So when have you ever been able to pay for insurance with a before-tax dollar before? Not often.
Very, very good point. You know, I have written about that and talked about it, but it's been probably 10 or 15 years that you just reminded me, because many times if you're using money from within a life insurance policy to pay for a long-term care benefit, you're basically buying that long-term care insurance with excess interest that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And you don't have to pay tax on that excess interest. It's just transferred from one policy to the next policy inside the umbrella of one big jumbo policy. And you never pay tax on the earnings.
That's exactly right. And the other thing is, many of these contracts, if the kids give you the winning lottery ticket for Christmas and you're a bazillionaire and you don't need long-term care in your own mind, you can take the money back. It's like you loaned it to the insurance company. How good is that?
It's amazing. So there are all of these options that are available, but you won't know about them unless, and you certainly wouldn't know which one might be best for you until you talk to somebody that is in the know. So the person that I go to, that I have gone to, by the way, and that I refer to all around the country. You do business all around the country, don't you?
I do.
You're one of the best at doing that. You know, it's hard to do stuff long distance, but you've figured out how to do that. It's very nice that you can do that.
Phone will communicate.
Yeah, so very, very good. So get a hold of Lynn Rowe today and tell her that I sent you. She'll send you a bonus of something. I don't know. 877-270-3127. I want my LTC.net.